Hey, everyone. In our latest Trade to Black podcast, Kevin O'Leary says NFTs are going to be bigger than Bitcoin. And speaking of Bitcoin, crypto, it is crashing right now and people are freaking out. So what is the short-term future of the industry? Find out now in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Trade to Black podcast. 2022 is here. Happy to be joined with the crew right now. We are a division of the Dales Media Group. And before we get started, just a quick reminder that all views in the Trade to Black podcast and the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or our guests as investment advice. The views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Joining me as usual, millennial entrepreneur Anthony Varrell. It's 2022. How are the holidays, brother?
Holidays are great. First week I've been sick. This first week of the year I've been sick the entire week. With the flu, not COVID.
Not COVID?
No COVID.
All right.
Tested 4 times, negative every time. But yeah, I got a flu. But aside from that, yeah. So it's been a good start to the year.
Good to see you back. Ben, great to have you back this week. How are things, brother?
Things are great. Good start to the year as well. Just, focusing on some potential investments in the cannabis and psychedelic space as, things grind lower. But I'm excited for what's ahead in 2022.
You okay? You need some alcohol or cannabis to consume after this first week of trading? Holy shit, that was pretty bad.
You know what? I might, because the trend is pretty much picked off as what the trend was in 2021, down to start the year. Nothing too major, 3-4%. But, it's not... Yeah, it hasn't started off the best yet.
Yeah. Well, let's begin with...
the only thing that would give me more heartburn is if I was levered to tech stocks, which I'm not, hopefully.
Yeah.
Or thankfully.
Well, let's begin with cannabis. Brand new year, brand new beginnings. People all excited. They feel like we maybe have finally turned the corner. And then the first week of trading happened, which quite honestly is similar to a quote-unquote steaming pile of dog shit with no trend reversal in sight. And that's putting it bluntly, boys.
That's my morning note.
What happened? Like week one, it just seems like copy and paste, Ben.
Yeah, I think what happened is sort of a continuation of some of the chatter you were hearing in December that we covered on the Dales report. And that is that, some people are concerned about margin compression and slowing sales growth. Even if unit growth is growing, maybe pricing is a little bit lower, and that's slowing, the revenue profile of some of these companies. So, for an example, Doug Cass from Seabreeze Partners Management came out with a note yesterday, and he'd been bullish. He had been buying the dips in the Q3, Q4 2021, and he basically came out and said that earnings estimates are too high for 2022, and that they need to come down a little bit, and that there is likely to be some margin compression as well. So I think it's just sort of competing forces. People are very excited for the long term, but then, short term, there's some, concerns about margin compression, growth slowing down in some of these top companies.
Well, I think the industry right now reflects your T-shirt, Anthony, the unimpressed. That's for sure. But
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like Ben said, we're facing some margin compression. We're facing inflationary forces in all of their COGS and inputs. And I mean, the price of flowers come down. I mean, we got trolled on Twitter by a couple people on my call that MSOS will take out the all-time high. I mean, let's keep in mind that wasn't January 5th that I was making that call. That was for the end of the year this year. I mean, I think everything's going to get ironed out in Q1, Q2. We hit the ground running going into the end of the year. And, I mean, these stocks are still on sale right now. If you want to buy them, buy them. If you're afraid, stay on the sidelines and make an educated decision once it looks like you can come in. But, I mean, they're not going anywhere, which is the good thing.
Yeah, well, I think former hedge fund manager Whitney Tilson is agreeing with you. He has high hopes for the cannabis stocks in 2022.
Oh, yeah.
Industry reminds him of what happened about a year ago with bank stocks where they almost doubled. So why do you think he believes that? And because he sees 2022 as a year of legislative breakthrough. So, Anthony, is this the year that we finally see legislative breakthrough here in the U.S.?
I mean, I'd like to say yes, but the trend is proving otherwise from the past. I mean, I do think that we get safe past this year. Fingers crossed. There could be some other regulatory frameworks passed around expungement and around just the overall lingering, I guess, effects of the war on drugs. But I mean, I don't like to look at anything in a vacuum. Like, God knows what's going to go on in the U.S. government this year. I'm sure there'll be a lot of other things that are pushing agendas forward. And I mean, sure, I'd like to stay on the bright side and say we are going to get some stuff passed this year. But like we have said, and the narrative still holds true, the sector's going to move forward without the regulatory shifts, with or without them. They're going to be complementary. They're going to make it better for us. However, it's not really going to hinder us moving forward. So I mean, I'm really in the middle.
Do you guys still think that we get out of this funk, even if there is no legislative movement, Ben?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say on aggregate, the market probably won't rise that much if there is no federal or regulatory action this year. And that is sort of a play on what, Pablo Zuanich from Cantor Fitzgerald has been saying, that, sentiment is still largely driven by what's going to happen in the federal realm, because that holds the key, right? I mean, people want to know that, things are moving forward on that front, because then that will bode well for things like 280E, which is the restrictive tax burdens placed on these companies that are going to be, lifted maybe at some time with descheduling, things like that. So something has to set the chain in motion, I think, to give people hope that things are going to be moving forward. And that's why I think it's pretty key that something like an expungement bill, even if it doesn't affect the company's top lines directly, I think just getting that through is going to be important, because I don't think safe banking is going to go through until Chuck Schumer and those powerful Senate Democrats get something like expungement first. So I would look for that, and I'd sort of echo Anthony's statements that a bill, it sounds like it's going to come through Cory Booker sometime in Q1. If it does, look to see if that passes, and if it does, then we can start talking about safe banking, because I think that comes first.
So if we see this expungement bill presented, let's say later in Q1, do you think short term we continue to see more sell-off? And it's a question for either one of you.
My guess is, your guess is as good as mine, to be honest, at this point. I mean, I'd like to say no. I mean, we could also be 10% lower next week when we shoot the next podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's up for anybody's, up for grabs for anybody's interpretation. I mean, the problem is it's a lot of retail right now. I mean, people get scared and people sell. You see it happening in crypto. You see it happening in cannabis. I mean, you're kind of at the mercy of weak-handed individuals. I mean, maybe it sounds crass, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'd like to say no, but you never know with these assets that we're dealing with.
I'm going to echo Anthony's statements here. Lack of institution obviously is a big component to this. We've been talking about this for a while. Until things can sort of smooth out on the federal regulatory front and you can get these uplistings, then institutional participation is going to remain low. So until that happens, it's going to be hard to get a sustained push from retail, which is largely already in right now. So I think the environment is going to be really choppy. You're going to see, valuations are very compressed, so I don't think you're going to see a huge swoon lower unless you get this huge market crash or something to that effect. But, it's going to be balanced by low valuations and high growth versus margin compression, doubt that federal regulation is going to appear. So I think you're going to see a very choppy market until we start to see some, movement with maybe an expungement bill to get people excited about what could happen in the future.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, and I mean, I think inflation's also going to have to subside to a degree, and we're not going to see rates go through the roof. If those two things happen, look out below.
Yeah.
I mean, we need those two to go away very quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Let's shift our attention now north of the border into Canada. Tilray has their latest earnings report scheduled for tomorrow. And on Friday, a number of firms actually released price targets for a number of companies, including Tilray. Big cuts. Anthony, what were some of the notable cuts that you noticed, and why do you think it was?
Yeah, I mean, CIBC brought it down from 12 to 7, and then AGP brought it down from 12 to 8. Wow. Those are pretty notable cuts. Yeah. I mean, getting slashed down to the single figures. I mean, I'd like to think that the Aphria acquisition was still smart. What they've got going with Sweetwater still holds true. Their distribution business in Europe, with Germany coming online and the EU starting to perform. I mean, I'm a little bit dumbfounded by these cuts. Maybe their market share in Canada in the short term really has been eroded, and the revenue is just going to fall short, and then it's going to take longer than expected to bring the U.S. business online. So maybe these are short-term cuts. But I woke up this morning and got that email from my partner, and I was like, holy shit, these are pretty aggressive. And I mean, if it's warranted there, hopefully it doesn't start to be systemic, and you start to see some price cuts across the board with the U.S. names as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just amazing how the wood chippers come out with some of the with the top names in Canadian cannabis, Canopy Growth included, Hexo, the top ones. And I think a lot of it has to do
They're
with...
getting no love.
Sorry?
They said they're getting no love anymore.
Oh, not only, they're not getting any love. And I think the people who called on these small growers, right, these micro growers to gain market share over time because they could grow better quality cannabis, they're seeing their market share increase from what I can tell through some of the data from Headset. And the big growers, the conglomerate growers are seeing their market share decrease, like Tilray and Canopy Growth. So I think that's part of the problem here is that there's just no money to be made for the big growers with all their capex and expensive operations in Canada, and you're starting to see all the downgrades come on. I know Tilray has their earnings financial report Q2 2022 coming on Monday, so we'll see if that changes. But from what I can tell, some of the analysts don't think that they're going to beat, or maybe it's going to be like it's going to be at consensus, but there shouldn't be a big beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the proof has been in the pudding since the Canadian market rolled out. I mean, all of my Canadian friends and everybody that I know has always said, Aurora grows shit weed, Canopy grows shit weed, Broken Coast, amazing cannabis. Entourage, they used to be Weed MD, amazing cannabis. The smaller scale guys have always been at the top, and they've always been at the top of mind for consumers. And I mean, I've known that for 4 years now. So, I mean, this trend doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I kind of like to see the little guy succeeding in Canada from a craft perspective. Nothing against Tilray and Canopy, because, I mean, we do need them to ultimately do well. But, I mean, I love seeing the craft growers and the quality products flourish in the Canadian market.
Yeah, I've been hearing that lately, too. Even take a company like Greenway Cannabis in Canada, right? Not very well known. But they're doing well from what I hear. I think they're selling most of what they grow is out the door. And I think the quality aspect, people are really attuned to the quality that some of these small micro growers or scale growers can grow. And it's definitely a lot better than, the mass greenhouse produced stuff that you see from Canopy.
And I mean, I also think that's proof of a mature market. I mean, when you look at cannabis, I mean, all the cannabis consumers that I know, if they find a good product, they will not stop fucking buying it. They won't deviate from it. That's their brand. They buy it. In a market like Florida, where there's no choice and all you got to do is go to TruLeaf and buy whatever is on the shelf, the product keeps selling. Yep. Once these markets mature, you're going to see these smaller, upper echelon brands start to really curb the market, generate consistent revenue, and then the big boys are going to come in and consolidate them sooner or later. But I mean, a mature cannabis market, the consumer is king, versus what it looks like in Florida, Arizona, et cetera, where as long as you have it on the shelf, it sells and the quality doesn't matter.
Well, you want to talk about growth plan. Look at Curaleaf, $300 million in their last quarter. They announced, actually, and this is maybe an announcement that people missed towards the end of the last year, an acquisition about a week and a half ago of Bloom Dispensaries, which operates 4 retail stores in Arizona, plus 2 cultivation and processing facilities. It was an all-cash transaction, valued at $211 million. And it appears so far that the shareholders do not like it. So maybe that's a bold statement or a little aggressive to say that. But do you think they overpaid for the acquisition, Anthony, or no?
No, I think when we ran the numbers, they paid something like 4.2 times top line revenue. I don't think that's too rich, and you could argue that Curaleaf needs a footprint in Arizona, especially with Harvest and TruLeaf executing that merger. They need to compete in that state. It's an underserved market. It's a gold mine market, and it's a very high barrier to entry market. To get into. I think the move was justified. I'm not a big fan of all cash transactions in this space. But if it's one thing that I have seen, it's Boris Jordan's a pretty damn good steward of capital and a pretty good steward of steering the ship for Curaleaf. So, I mean, if he did an all-cash transaction to the tune of $200 million, I'm assuming it was justified, and he's always had the shareholder in mind at Curaleaf. So, I mean, I trust him on that. I think it was solid, and we'll see if it bears fruit.
As these MSOs buy more and more acquisitions throughout the year, they gobble up the competition. Is there anything in particular that either one of you look for or be mindful of when they make these announcements and what investors should be aware of?
Brands.
Yeah.
The brands, the IP, and the market share. And are those brands successful in more than one state?
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, like Plus Products, I invested in them very early. They were the number one edible in California. They got their absolute shit rocked the past 3 years in California from Wild and from everybody else. And then they went to Nevada and completely screwed the pooch on that too, because the consistency in the product sucked. They sold the company to Glass House for 9 cents a share about 30 days ago,
right?
Which you can tell I'm not too thrilled about. But I mean, yeah, from a branding perspective, I'd be looking for, are they successful? Can they duplicate that success in other markets? Because I mean, that's all that matters in this game right now.
Yeah.
Especially if you're acquiring brands and IP. And then from a market perspective, is the market high barrier to entry? Does it look like a Florida or an Arizona market, or does it look like Oklahoma, where the three of us can go there with a couple $1,000, sign up for a permit and start growing right away?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm looking for defensibility as well.
Yeah, I echo those.
It'd be a good day to be a Sooner.
Exactly. And also it's no coincidence that these companies are buying in the newer, higher growth states like Arizona, Illinois, Connecticut, Massachusetts. These are the states where these smaller dispensaries are being purchased. So they're going for creative deals for the most part that add to their bottom line. These small dispensary operations are not losing money for the most part, and they're going into high growth states like Arizona, that states are just getting off the ground from the rec side. So I think this is a very smart deal from Curaleaf, especially in light of them getting a loan at 8%, and interest rates keep coming down, right? So they're probably going to get more return on investment in this deal than the cost to borrow money on the capital market side.
Oh yeah.
Well, as Curaleaf looks to obviously strategize and roll out their growth plan in the state of Arizona with Bloom Dispensaries, I want to shift our attention now across the country into the state of Michigan. And don't look now, the state is going to report $1.63 billion of cannabis sales for 2021. Ben, you talked about Illinois, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. This is a state that gets overlooked a lot. It's going to grow as much as 84% from the previous year, including an increase of 66% in November alone, which was reported by newadventures.com and Alan Brockstein. We talk a lot about Michigan. We talk about TerrAscend that obviously acquired Gage and the opportunity that's at hand. We've also tweeted out recently that chairman of the board of TerrAscend, Jason Wild, continues to buy on the open market. Clearly, it's a sign that he thinks that this industry is very, very aggressive for the year. But what were your thoughts based on as he continues to buy more and more shares in the open market?
Yeah, my thoughts are very bullish. I mean, how could you not be? Jason Wild keeps buying on behalf of some of his funds. I think there's 4 in which he's buying for, like various growth funds, emerging market funds, things like that. So obviously it's a good sign, right? He must think that the stock is at a good price right now. Obviously, these funds base their decision making largely on valuations and peer comps and things like that, and things have come down to a level which they feel comfortable that owning here is good for the long term, right? And it's not just JW Asset Management. It's also some company-specific stock buybacks like AYR Wellness. They sent out a press release today basically saying that they purchased 11 million Canadian in stock, or about 570,000 shares, around that area, of buybacks with their own company stock. So obviously, and those purchases have been steady since November. So obviously, whether you're a fund or whether you've seen company buybacks, a lot of very smart people are seeing pretty good value here, and you'd have to agree if you're looking at things on a long-term basis.
Yeah, I mean, where AYR's at right now, I surely hope so. that they're willing to buy their stock. That stock has gotten crushed in the past 6 months.
I like what they did too. Like they announced their buyback, I think in the summer, right? But they didn't wait to buy back around $30. It might have been about $32 Canadian at the time. And they waited to do their purchasing until November, right? So when prices were a lot better. So they didn't just buy indiscriminately. I think they're buying at a really good price if looking from the long-term view.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, guys, let's shift to psychedelics. Slow start for the year, very reminiscent of how the 2021 year ended. Horizon's Psych ETF is down 40% over the past 9 weeks. Compass is down 57% in that same time frame. Ben, and pardon my language, what the fuck is going on?
Well, what is it that you said to start the broadcast? It's a steaming pile of shit, dog shit. I think
so we've got 2 of those today.
I think that and that's pretty much encapsulates what it is right now. I mean, if you're just looking at, stock prices, how could you say it's not? It just, again, we've covered this before. Lack of institutional investment is really hurting here because there's no buffer on the drip down of selling, right? First it was tax law selling. Now people, technically it looks like dog shit. So people, see very elevated broad markets and they're scared that, if we get some sort of correction that these type of sectors don't really hold on too well, generally speaking. So it's just more drip selling into it, and there's not really that impetus to buy. So, we're even seeing some leadership stocks like Compass revisit or getting close to their IPO price at $17 a share, which it opened at $23.40 on its IPO day, right? So it's trading at all-time lows.
That's actually, I didn't realize that.
I've got an app that I downloaded just to like screw around with it to see how it was, called Public, which was like a social stock buying app, which I didn't really want to transfer any significant amount of money into. So I put a couple grand in there, bought Compass, and just stashed it there. I opened the app yesterday and I was like, holy shit. I was like, that's where we are now.
Were you down like a quick 20% or whatever?
Oh yeah, I mean, I bought this. I bought a 32. I haven't sold it. It's just sitting there. But I looked at it. And I was like, oh my god.
I know.
I was like, I didn't realize the trend has been that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you think a tie or somebody's got to start coming in, and if there really is IP in any of these companies, start throwing out tender offers.
Yeah. There was an interesting announcement this week involving Mindset Pharma and a collaboration agreement with Otsuka Pharmaceuticals, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, most specifically in Japan, on developing new generation psychedelic medicines. Ben, we had CEO of Mindset on last week, James Lantier. He mentioned once one announcement is made with Big Pharma, expect to see more. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I do believe that. I think James was onto something. I would just caveat that by saying that, it's not going to happen next week. You're not going to see a flood or a torrent. I think Big Pharma, now that this is sort of out in the public realm, it's obviously going to get the attention of some companies that perhaps were thinking about being exposed. And now that you start to see these deals, they want to get in on some of the best investment opportunities out there, and maybe they're going to, start expediting their own due diligence process to make their own investments, right? But it's not going to be a flood. Everybody's just going to, choose based on the IP that is out there and the best IP that fits their best IP fits for them, I think.
If we get a couple of big pharma announcements, say similar to something that we heard this week, do you think institutions start to move in quickly, Anthony, at some point in Q1?
Yeah, I mean, I think they move in tandem if you start to see somebody, the guys from Big Pharma circling. I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that'd be a green light to guys. It's open season on psychedelics. We're going to be taking these very seriously, and I mean, once these compounds are approved from an efficacy standpoint and commercialization takes place, I mean, there's a multi-billion-dollar business lines that they're going to be looking to back, and they're going to be trying to take to market.
All right, last segment. I want to talk about crypto. Market is correcting, and people, needless to say, are freaking out. First off, Anthony, why is it correcting with so much promise estimated the short-term future of the industry?
I mean, crypto right now is trading like a risk-on asset. The Fed came out and basically spoiled the party for tech stocks on Monday. The Nasdaq has gotten its shit kicked in all this week. Crypto followed accordingly. Ethereum right now is sitting at around 3,100. Bitcoin is floating in the low 40s. If anything, the silver lining here is NFTs are actually solid.
I know.
NFTs haven't dipped at all. I've actually been selling NFTs right now to flip it to Ethereum and then put it into some stable coins, just to hedge a little bit of exposure in my portfolio. But NFTs have actually stood up, which, this is an aggressive move down in Ethereum. It's traded in a range from 3,700 to like 4,200, sideways almost, even though I know it's a pretty fat spread over the past 4 or 5 months. But to see a 31 handle right now on Ethereum is a little bit scary. All things considered, we were at $500 not too long ago.
Yeah, you're right.
Not saying that we're going to go all the way down, because I really do believe that user adoption has accelerated. There's a lot more firm hands in there, and when you really do look at the analytics, there's a lot of a lot of the selling is coming from retail, and it's being bought up. I'm still bullish on crypto. I'm actually fascinated to see where this goes, because I have a lot of dry powder right now on the sidelines, waiting to come in. But I'm taking a cautious approach. I flipped a lot of my stuff into stable coins on Monday ahead of the Fed announcement.
Hey, Anthony, are you a little surprised that crypto isn't acting more like a hedge, or more of like a safe asset haven that some people thought?
I don't think it's a safe.
No,
I don't think it's a safe haven. I don't think it's a safe haven asset at all. I'm actually pretty against that argument. It's probably the riskiest fucking asset you can have in your portfolio, all things considered. If you want to call anything a store of value and anything as a true risk asset, I would say the only one's Bitcoin, and I don't have any of my portfolio in Bitcoin. I'm all in altcoins, L1 chains, and Ethereum, for the most part. So I wouldn't be putting my money in Ethereum if the market starts to go sideways or starts to go down,
right,
as a risk on asset.
Is there any correlation between the NFT market and some of the altcoins with the big boys like Ethereum or Bitcoin?
Well,
or
when you see what we're seeing now for the second or third time since I've been dabbling in the sector, when you see crypto deflate, you see NFTs inflate almost. And when you see crypto start to rip, people are actually selling their NFTs to get more exposure to the coins, and it just cycles in and out. But right now, NFTs are stable. The floors are stable. The liquidity is still there. I think there's a lot of people that are really just on pins and needles right now to see what this move is. If there's a breakdown to like 2,800, I've got orders in to buy on Ethereum. But there's a lot of retail, like we just harped on, in psychedelics and cannabis, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people might start to get scared. We could see a cascade.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a cautious approach to this right now.
Well, you talked about taking money out of Bitcoin. Kevin O'Leary predicted this week that NFTs will become a bigger market than Bitcoin, and there are plenty.
They will be.
Yeah, you're plenty of reasons to believe that, Anthony. You want to explain more based off of that?
NFTs in their simplest form are a real world use case of crypto. If you want to take a 10,000 foot approach, whatever that JPEG is and what people think NFTs actually are, throw it out the window. That picture does not mean a goddamn thing. What the value is in the NFT is the underpinning smart contract that actually dictates what that NFT is capable of doing in its respective ecosystem, identified with its unique hash on the blockchain. That is the value.
So,
the value is not in the picture.
Give me an example. Give me an example of one.
So my Bored Apes. So my Bored Apes, yes, they are aesthetically pleasing from a visual perspective, but that Bored Ape at the end of the day signifies that I have ownership in their community. Mm-hmm. I have ownership in that ecosystem. I'm entitled to certain rights in that ecosystem. So a lot of people out there are like, oh, you got an NFT, I can right-click, save it. Sure, that's great. MetaHero, which is another Pixel Vault, which is another NFT project I've mentioned on this show, they opened staking a month ago. So all of my MetaHero NFTs, I've staked into their protocol, meaning that I have taken my wallet, I've engaged with their smart contract, and my NFT is now essentially loaned to them or taken off market to be staked. So this entire month, my NFTs have been staking their native coin called POW.
Okay.
I unstaked my NFTs 2 days ago, and the POW that was accumulating from those staking mechanisms generated about $8,000. So I generated $8,000 last month just by staking my NFTs in their protocol and gaining access to their coin. You want to right-click save my things all day? Go ahead. You don't have the rights to do that, and you can't participate in those ecosystems. That's just an example of what these things can do. And I mean, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, I'm seeing companies that are spinning up insurance policies that are pegged to NFTs because the smart contract is diligencing real-time weather patterns around like live events.
Wow,
I mean,
that's fascinating.
the use cases in this stuff is we're completely pivoting. It's no more an art or no more an aesthetic. It's what does the NFT actually do?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I bought one last week called LinksDAO, which sold out in about a day. They raised $10.5 million to start a country club and go buy a physical golf course. There's only 1,015 of those available. I have one of them. If I was a betting man, I paid 7.7 Ethereum for it, so I paid roughly $2,000 for the membership. They're not making any more of those, so if we're going on a value basis moving forward, I'm going to guess that now country club membership, if and when these guys buy a physical golf course and execute on their business plan, it's going to be worth more than $2,000. I mean, I can't get a membership at a country club in South Florida for less than 50 G's up front.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of things that I'm buying. They're NFTs with tangibility and real world use cases. They're not some picture of a fucking bear that I think is attractive that I think is going to 10x because a bunch of lemmings are going to come in and drive the market up. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of sick of going through this cadence with everybody. It's been a lot of it over the holidays.
Yeah.
And it's like, just forget about the picture. All that matters is the smart contract and the team and the ecosystem that NFT is uniquely designated to.
Are you worried Anthony, are you worried about the lack of regulatory framework behind it? Like, what happens if they raise $10.5 million and do not buy the golf course? Do you get those dispersions back? Like, do you get that money back, or can they just
I lose my money. I lose my money.
I'm sorry,
but I don't just throw darts in this space. I mean, the guys that are behind the project are running $100 million fund in the space. Like, I know these guys. Like, I converse with them on Twitter. I've met with them in New York. Like, I don't just throw darts at projects. Like, if I'm buying a project and I have conviction in a project, I've done diligence on the project, and I've actually, I know where I'm putting my money. There's so many people out there right now that are like, oh shit, there's a mint. I'm gonna go buy it. Let's see what happens, because some jerk offs on Twitter are telling them to buy it, and I mean, they're pumping their own bags, talking their own book, and then the people wind up losing money. I'm not buying anything I'm not buying anything in crypto or NFTs that is speculative moving forward.
This is happening everywhere too.
Oh yeah.
Guys moving to Puerto Rico to save on tax purposes and generating stuff that has no value, and people are getting caught up. Got to be careful. One thing is for sure, though, NFTs is, I don't have to say this, how much it's hit the mainstream, but next month, Bored Apes Yacht Club is set to be at the Super Bowl, and Eminem and Snoop Dogg plan to have their apes integrated.
Well, they're not.
Sorry, go ahead.
They're not set to be at the Super Bowl. It's rumored that Eminem and Snoop Dogg are having a 3D performance.
Their apes integrated into the performance.
Their apes integrated into. It's not confirmed yet, though. It's just a rumor that's going around. But Eminem bought an ape 2 weeks ago, and Snoop Dogg owns several apes right now.
Think of what that'll do.
It's looking like,
if that is integrated. Like the year that lies ahead.
It's mainstream.
Yeah, for sure.
It's mainstream. Buying a Bored Ape is like buying one of the set. I mean, I hate to use this analogy, but it's like buying one of the Muppets.
Mm-hmm.
It's like actually owning a placeholder in the Muppet ecosystem, or Sesame Street, or some iconic character, like one of the Simpsons. Like imagine owning Bart before Bart was the Simpsons, and then also having exposure to that IP moving forward, and then having the tangibility that you can actually sell it.
Yeah.
At another given point in time. That's what basically owning an ape looks like right now.
It's exciting.
I'm not selling mine anytime soon.
Sort of shifting gear here. I don't know if it's on the agenda, but so I'll bring it up here. But what'd you think about Walmart getting into the Metaverse? I don't know if you saw that story.
All right. So I've got a pretty rigid stance on any of this stuff. I don't want to deal with any major corporation, any celebrities, any influencers. Like, GameStop is probably the only company that I think has merit to get into the NFT space, which they actually, I hate meme stocks. I haven't touched any of them. I didn't trade them. I completely turned a blind eye to all of that Wall Street bets BS. But if anything has, if I've had any realization on why I understand NFTs and why I understand crypto, it's because I played video games my entire life.
Yeah.
If GameStop can actually build a decentralized marketplace that acts way better than OpenSea and is reliable, they're going to win. They'll also be able to go into the metaverse.
And this is where corporations
because they've already got
wrong.
Yeah. But Meta, like Facebook, sure, they're going to have a metaverse, whatever. Walmart, I mean, they can go fuck themselves for all I care. Walmart, I hate Walmart as a corporate. I hate everything Walmart stands for. So I mean, there's nothing more I'd like.
Should
to
we
see
go after them to
for
sponsor this podcast?
Walmart, sure. I mean, I've never had an enjoyable experience in one. I like I said, I mean, I don't like anything that Walmart stands for at its core, from a corporate perspective. But I mean, large corporations are going to come in. I think you saw Nike do it via an acquisition. You saw Adidas do it tastefully through partnerships. Those two things were received very differently in the NFT and in the crypto communities. So I mean, you're going to see guys enter, but I mean, someone like a Walmart, like, no, I don't want to see them succeed.
Can I get one of those fuck Walmart T-shirts for Can I wear one of those?
I'm not a big fan of big corporations.
Can I say something real quick? All views on this podcast are for the guests and guests alone, and not on behalf of the company.
Well, I didn't know that we were going after. Walmart sponsorship dollars.
Exactly. But anyway, interesting stuff. Obviously, a little bit of bumpy ride for the verticals that we're covering to kick off the year. But hey, look, obviously transparency is the key to make a smart decision. And you may not get the answers that you want right now, but long term, though, there seems to be a lot of great things on the horizon. But it's just a matter of being patient and getting there, right?
Oh, I think all three of these sectors are long-term winners. I think crypto, psychedelics, and cannabis, they're paradigm-shifting, disruptive sectors. I mean, we're just in a part of the cycle right now that sucks. I mean, I'm living it every day. So I mean, I'm not only talking my book. I mean, I'm literally living it, levered to all of them with a significant amount of my net worth. But I mean, I have a high level of conviction in all three of these sectors.
That's the frustrating thing.
And my time horizon is also
it's like we
long.
know where this is going long term, especially cannabis,
Yeah.
psychedelics. We know where this is going long term, but it's just a matter of timing thing. And a lot of people don't have a issue like sitting on shares or that are not going for the right away or taking big drawdowns and not looking at the long term focus. It's easy to lose the long term focus when you're taking drawdowns. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah.
And,
like I watched Bitcoin go from 18 to 3. And then I also watched it go from 3 to 60.
Right.
yeah.
So I mean, it's my time horizon with everything, especially psychedelics, cannabis, and crypto, is 5 years. I don't care what it does now. I don't care what it's doing next quarter. I care what it's going to do 5 years from now, and I'm pretty sure it's going to generate considerable wealth across all three verticals.
Mm-hmm. All right, gents. Great week. I'm just looking at my notes here before I let you go. The NFL season is over. Who is your pick to represent each conference in the Super Bowl, and who ultimately wins the Super Bowl?
I was
Who do you got from the NFC?
Yeah, I thought KC had the advantage. Just reading last night, if they beat Denver, but
No,
it's not. Okay,
Tennessee.
so I was reading wrong.
Tennessee's got it. I actually finally figured out who I think you mildly look like, Shad, and it's Tannehill.
Really? Ryan Tannehill?
Tannehill.
Yeah.
That's because I am.
But no, who do you have for the NFC, Ben?
Well, you got to go with Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is a legend. I think he's the best quarterback of all time, even more than Brady. I know Brady has more of the championships, and he's going to get.
Always knew I liked you.
You agree as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck Tom Brady. I like Tom Brady. I respect Tom Brady, but Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback ever. Talent-wise, there's no one better.
Yeah, he's
Joe Montana.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, but
no, he's better than Joe Montana.
Present day quarter.
Who is?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has the most accurate arm and is the best steward of the football.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
That's probably ever played the game, and it's effortless. He just flips the ball.
Him or
just right there, and
him or Quincy Carter.
I love Aaron Rodgers.
Him or Quincy Carter. Very close. Very close. You guys don't even know who Quincy.
I do like Green. I like Green Bay though. but I also like Cincinnati.
You guys don't even know who Quincy
Cincinnati's been on
Carter is,
fire,
do you?
right?
Yeah, I'd have to go Cincinnati for the AFC.
The Bengals?
Bengals.
No. Bengals and
Watch.
who's the 3 seed? Is it the Bengals or are they the 4 seed?
Bengals are the 4 seed.
Who's the
Right
3
now,
seed?
it could change, but
Top
probably
seed
3
is,
or 4.
is
Yeah.
it Buffalo?
Oh, it might be Buffalo. Yeah, it is Buffalo.
Here's what I'm predicting. I'm thinking Antonio Brown catches the winning reception in the NFC Championship game as a member of the Dallas Cowboys, and he beats the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you think?
Can that even happen?
That can happen. It probably won't happen, though.
No,
There are rumors.
no one's going to take Antonio Brown. And,
No,
you know,
there's
the
rumors that
chemistry
Dallas-
factor. I don't know. Maybe someone does, but
Rumors that Dallas.
Jerry Jones is crazy enough.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys like the Chiefs, or the Bengals, in the AFC, and the Packers in the NFC.
Yeah.
yep.
I'd like to, with the in that scenario, I got the Packers winning the Super Bowl.
One thing's for sure, the Bengals are winning multiple Super Bowls with Joe Burrow. That team is on the rise. What a draft pick.
And they're young.
Yep. Speaking of sports, we got a new sports betting show called Guaranteed Money coming up in a couple of weeks. Mr. Varrell is going to be co-hosting it. We will have a big announcement coming up, former big mainstream media broadcaster that's joining our team, and we're going to be kicking off that show. A lot of great guests that are going to be launched, obviously, in the couple of weeks, and we're going to have you and the team, obviously, in Las Vegas the week of the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
We'll fly out to L.A. for a day or two just to see what's going on, but we definitely want to be at a lot of the big sports books in Vegas for the day of the game, and we got a lot of big guests announced that week. So it's going to be a great show and a lot of great stuff coming up in the next week or two.
Oh, yeah, look forward to it. Definitely look forward to it. Get to DJing out at sports as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing I love.
Gents, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks for checking in this week.
Sam, talk next
Okay,
week.
take care.
Thanks, Jeff.